My son Neil was a lovely young man. He's very conscientious, very close to his family, his brothers. And he had so many plans and hopes for the future.
March last year, and 28-year-old Neil Colquhoun from Hampshire was with colleagues celebrating his first few weeks of a new job.
One of the girls, she wanted to go back to her car, and my son, being the gentleman that he was, I used to like to think he was a gentleman anyway, he escorted her back to her car. And he was going to go back to where the others were, and then he thought better of it. So he texted his flatmate and said, "Oh, put the pizza on, get the beers out." He said, "I'm coming home now."
But Neil was never to make it home. His route back took him along the A30 dual carriageway. During the journey, Neil safely overtook a BMW. All of a sudden, he was confronted by a car travelling the wrong way down the carriageway. The two cars smashed together in a head-on collision.
I was banging on my bedroom door, and I woke up, and it's my son saying, "There's a policeman downstairs to speak with you." He said, "I'm afraid there's been an accident."
It's pretty much head-on. Neil's vehicle span round, collided with the car that he was overtaking as well, and then the three cars have ended up in a sort of heap in the side of the road. His vehicle caught fire shortly after the collision, and many witnesses and people who have turned up to the accident afterwards did their best in an attempt to get Neil out of the vehicle. It would have been an absolutely traumatic scene to come across. There were flames, there was smoke.
The driver of the other vehicle was 89-year-old Dr. Turner Waddell. Badly injured, he and his wife were pulled away from their vehicle, but Neil remained trapped in his car.
And of course the fire, the car caught light, and there was nothing left to identify my son. All that they could offer me was his burnt mobile, which was just melted plastic. You put on the face of people, you laugh and you joke, but inside you're just breaking up.
The tragic part of this crash was that it could have been completely avoided, as Waddell was not fit to drive.
On the day of the collision and subsequent investigations, we found that, in fact, he had no sight in one eye and below the legal limit in the other. Therefore, he could hardly see where he was going when he was driving along the road.
Dr. Turner Waddell received a 9-month suspended sentence after admitting causing death by careless driving. The judge urged family members of elderly drivers to think very, very carefully whether their relatives should still be on the road. Dr. Waddell's son Tony did try and stop his father from driving, but he couldn't convince him.
I feel of guilt that we could have done something, but in hindsight, in fact, we know we couldn't have done. We give advice, I give advice, and he listened, but he wouldn't really take it in. We used the bus. I even took them on the bus and said, "Look, it's so easy doing shopping out." And but no, he, you know, it's probably arrogance. As you get older, we all think we're perfect drivers and keep going forever, but obviously not.
At the age of 70, anyone driving has to reapply for their licence every 3 years. But it's a self-certifying system, and one that allowed motorists like Dr. Waddell to continue to drive. When Julia Langdon's 90-year-old father started having car accidents, she felt like she had a responsibility as a family member to stop him from driving.
He regarded any other car on the road as an invitation to overtake. He completely disregarded speed limits, and he thought policemen were young boys who didn't know what they were doing and should be out catching criminals. And when you said to him, "What about that accident with the lamppost on the bypass?" he would say, "Oh, that's ridiculous, they just forgot to put the light on," or whatever. I don't know why he hit the lamppost, but he had hit a lamppost. He'd also beaten up about 4 of the neighbours' cars in the car park of the block of flats here my mother lived in. And the family just got very anxious and thought we should stop him driving before he killed someone, and possibly our mother.
Concerned, Julia decided to take direct action.
I contacted the DVLA. They said if the doctor says he can go on driving, he can go on driving. And I said, but he's dangerous. And they said, but you're infringing his human rights.
PACTS, the Parliamentary Advisory Council for Transport Safety, recently published a paper looking into how to keep elderly people safe on the road. One of their recommendations was that GPs should play more of an integral part in the system.
If you think that they are not physically able to drive a car, you should ask them whether they are still driving, because it's a key role that you have as a health professional to help save lives of others as well as the life that's in front of you. But it's very hard because it's requiring the doctor to think, should I sentence this person to a life behind their front door, unable to get out?
PACTS is recommending a national driving assessment scheme. At the moment, appraisals exist but differ from county to county. 83-year-old Dennis Hilditch from Southampton is worried about his driving as he grows older.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about it because I don't know what I would do without the car. It seems almost impossible to imagine, but it will happen in due course.
How long have you been driving for?
Motorcycles from the time I was 17. I'm now 83, work that out, do your own maths.
Do you worry about him driving? Is he a good driver?
Very, yes. I don't look for the pedal on my side.
Morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Ron.
I'm Bob.
Today, Dennis is taking an experienced driver's assessment run by the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents.
So at the end of your road, we'll be turning to the right. I think the present scheme certainly needs reviewing. It relies on people self-certifying, GPs, look at the repercussions of taking a licence off somebody. It is quite destructive to their quality of life. It is difficult, but I do think we do need to have a more robust system in place. Lots of parked vehicles, so what are you looking for along there?
And anything that moves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being your own critic isn't very good because you'll always say, yes, I'm perfectly safe. You really need somebody else to be strong enough to say, it's time you stopped. But members of the family won't. They're too nice, they're too kind. And so they keep on driving.
And what can you see happening ahead?
Watching the lady with the pram.
Yeah.
Stop like this up ahead.
That's it.
Some sort of a hold up.
So how was it then?
Made some mistakes.
Really? Not as confident now?
No, not quite as good as it should be.
Moment of truth then, how did he do?
He's been a bit hard on himself. There were a few things that I would need to point out to him, but overall, he gives the impression that he is an experienced driver, but more importantly, that he's conscious of the need to take account of other road users in busy traffic.
It's hoped the recommendations by PACTS for a nationwide driving assessment scheme should help older people like Dennis make that difficult decision of when to stop driving. When is too old to drive, though?
When you can no longer drive. When you're no longer fit to drive is too old. Until then, you're still fit to drive. Age doesn't really come into it as far as I'm concerned.
It would be difficult to get used to, but I hope that we're wise enough to know the time when it's time to give up.
The longer we discuss it, the more publicly we discuss it, the further down the chain it will get. The problem is the automobile is a combination of two key things: autonomy, your freedom, and mobility, your right to move around.
But Patricia Cahoon is hoping that people's right to move around doesn't come at the cost of other people's lives.
I don't hold the driver who killed my son responsible for my son's death. It is the system, because it's the system that allowed him to continue driving.
The sadness of the whole thing, that my father, a very well-respected GP in Wales, should end his days actually taking life. He is deeply sorry what's happened, I know that. And, I must pass the Waddell's family condolences to the Colgan family. It's terrible what they must have been through.
My sons always came for dinner on a Sunday. And the last thing he said after dinner was, "Oh, thanks, Mum, it was lovely dinner. See you next week." And I said, "Yeah, okay, you take care," I said. "Love you." And he called back, "I love you too."